In a world where history is often told through the eyes of kings and conquerors, there are stories buried deep in the shadows, stories of queens, empresses, and royal women who shaped nations with quiet determination, fiery spirit, and sometimes ruthless ambition. Their lives were filled with unimaginable privilege, yet burdened with extraordinary challenges. And today, we will step back into the Middle Ages, a time of castles and crusades, of dynasties and destiny, to uncover the lives of these remarkable women. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to this channel. If you enjoy exploring history, stories of power, politics, and legacy, subscribing ensures you never miss out on videos like this. Now, let's begin, and trust me, this journey is going to keep you hooked until the very end. The life of Eleanor of Aquitaine is one of the most fascinating tales in medieval history. Born into wealth and power, she was no ordinary noblewoman. Her inheritance alone made her one of the most sought-after brides in Europe, but it was her intelligence, charisma, and sheer force of will that secured her place among the greatest figures of her time. Married first to Louis of France, she quickly grew dissatisfied with a marriage defined more by piety than passion. She shocked Christendom when she insisted on accompanying Louis on the Second Crusade, not as a passive consort but in armor, with lance in hand, commanding attention on the battlefield. But the marriage was destined to fail. Unable to produce a male heir, and weary of Louis's solemn, religious lifestyle, Eleanor sought an annulment. Within months of regaining her independence, she made another daring choice. Marrying Henry, a bold and ambitious noble who soon ascended to the throne of England as Henry II. With Henry, she bore 8 children, including Richard the Lionheart and King John, 2 monarchs whose reigns shaped English history for generations. Yet Eleanor's relationship with Henry was as volatile as it was powerful. Henry's infidelities and iron will clashed with Eleanor's independence, leading her to support her sons in rebellion against their father. For this act of defiance, Henry imprisoned her for 16 long years. And yet, Eleanor endured. Upon Henry's death, she emerged not weakened, but stronger than ever. She became regent of England under her beloved son Richard and later guided her son John, negotiating treaties, arranging royal marriages, and even traveling across Europe in her 70s to secure dynastic alliances. Eleanor's story is not merely that of a queen consort. It is the story of a ruler, a patron of the arts, and a woman who, against all odds, left a cultural and political legacy that still echoes today. But Eleanor's story was not unique in its struggles. The medieval era was filled with queens who bore immense responsibility. For many royal women, their greatest duty was not diplomacy or governance, but childbearing. Queens were expected to produce sons, heirs to secure dynasties, warriors to defend realms, and princes to marry into rival houses. Childbirth, however, was perilous. Without modern medicine, many queens died in childbirth, as did countless infants. The cycle of pregnancy, childbirth, and recovery often consumed most of a queen's life. Take, for example, Queen Philippa of Hainaut, wife of Edward III of England. She embodied the ideal of a medieval queen, loyal, kind, and deeply pious. She gave Edward a large brood of children, including 5 sons who lived to adulthood. Philippa even ruled as regent while Edward fought his wars abroad. But her devotion to her husband and her duty to the crown came at a devastating cost. After bearing 13 children, she died following the birth of her 14th. Her loss was mourned not only by Edward, who was shattered, but by the people, who adored her for her compassion and generosity. For royal daughters, life carried its own burdens. From infancy, princesses were viewed as political pawns. Their marriages were arranged not for love but for alliances, their dowries the bargaining chips in the great game of feudal power. Imagine being betrothed while still in the cradle, knowing your entire future had already been decided. Princesses often left their homelands at a young age, sent to foreign courts where they were valued only for their bloodline and fertility. Some adapted and grew to love their husbands, but many lived lonely, isolated lives, strangers in strange lands, forever torn between loyalty to their birth family and duty to their new one. Yet in these struggles, royal mothers and daughters forged bonds that became lifelines. Queens worked tirelessly to secure advantageous marriages for their daughters, calling in political favors and negotiating with powerful rulers. And once a princess was sent to her husband's land, her mother's letters of advice and encouragement often became her only source of comfort. This relationship between royal mother and daughter was one of the most vital forces in medieval politics, a hidden thread weaving together alliances across Europe. Consider the story of Empress Matilda, daughter of King Henry I of England. From a young age, her fate was determined by her father. She was betrothed at just 8 years old to the Holy Roman Emperor Henry V, and married at 12. She was trained as an empress, destined to rule beside him. But fate was cruel. Her husband died after only 11 years of marriage, leaving her childless and without power. She returned to England, where her father, desperate after the death of his only son, forced his nobles to swear loyalty to Matilda as his heir. When Henry died, however, the nobles broke their oaths, giving the crown to Matilda's cousin, Stephen. Matilda was not the kind of woman to surrender. She fought fiercely for her claim, leading armies, rallying supporters, and even capturing Stephen in battle. Though she was never crowned queen, her determination paved the way for her descendants. Her son would one day become Henry II, the very king who married Eleanor of Aquitaine. Through her defiance and her struggle, Matilda reshaped English history, proving that even in a world hostile to female rulers, a woman's ambition could alter the fate of a nation. And these stories are only fragments of the vast tapestry of medieval queenship. Behind every coronation, every treaty, every war, there were women working tirelessly, sacrificing endlessly, and enduring silently. Their influence stretched across courts and kingdoms, often unseen, but always present. Some, like Eleanor, shone brightly, leaving behind a legacy celebrated for centuries. Others, like Philippa and Matilda, endured suffering and struggle, their stories remembered only by those who dig deep into the annals of history. So what do these stories tell us about the lives of queens and princesses in the Middle Ages? They reveal a world of contradiction. These women were both powerful and powerless, revered and dismissed, central to dynastic politics yet often confined by the very structures they upheld. Their lives remind us that history is not only the story of kings and battles, it is also the story of mothers, daughters, and wives who bore the weight of dynasties upon their shoulders. As we reflect on these remarkable lives, let's think about the broader meaning of their experiences. What does it say about power when those who appear to have everything are still trapped by expectations beyond their control? What lessons can we learn from the resilience of Eleanor, the devotion of Philippa, or the determination of Matilda? And now, I want to hear from you. If you had lived in the medieval era, would you have chosen the life of royalty, with its wealth and privilege but also its heavy burdens? Or would you prefer the simpler, freer life of a commoner, far from the intrigues of court? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I can't wait to read your perspective. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of medieval queens, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story from history's forgotten voices. Your support means the world, and it helps us continue to bring you more of these incredible stories. Until next time, remember, history is not just about kings and empires, it's about the human experiences that connect us all across time and centuries.